Call this regular meeting of the Laramie City Council to order and invite you all to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
Here.
Newman.
Here.
O'Doherty.
Here.
Pierce.
Here.
Richardson. Absent. Shumway.
Here.
Somerville. Absent. Cumby.
Here.
Harrington.
Here.
That's 7 present and 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. We're going to move to public comments on non-agenda items. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on an item that is not on the agenda, yes, sir, please come on forward. We'll just need your name for the record. Cool. Will you flip on the microphone and then you can give us your name? You'll have 3 minutes, sir.
Hi, my name is Ryan Hershey. I'm the owner of Digital Doctor Cell Phone Repair downtown here on 3rd Street, just right off Grand Avenue. I'm here today to request something real simple. Code enforcement. We already have these codes for downtown parking. It says 2 hours all day, 24 hours a day, but it doesn't get done unless we call to request it. Personally, I'm a little tired of calling weekly to request code enforcement for something that has signs there that nobody pays attention to. I had instances with tenants that live downtown who actually come in and threaten me at my store. Because I called the police to have them, mark tires. And, it's kind of bad, I think, when we have these codes and we don't enforce them. What's the point of them if we don't actually do it, We can't even keep our city streets clean because those cars are parked all the time down there. The street sweepers can't get down there. It says, Tuesday nights, tow away. It doesn't happen anymore. When I was a student here back in the 90s, if you parked downtown and you left your car there for 2.5 hours, you're going to walk away with a ticket. And there's nothing wrong with that. That keeps, society has rules, and that's what keeps us in order. Right now, that's not going on downtown. There's plenty of places for people to park. But I have a continual thing where other business owners, students or tenants and that will park in front of my business literally all day long if I don't make a call. And I'm not sure, why it's not being enforced. There's revenue to be had, by going after those people that are abusing that. I think that, it's something that I see a lot of that in Laramie, really, where there's a lot of codes being, made that just aren't enforced. That's all I'm asking is just simple, code enforcement, for parking codes downtown. I think it'd really benefit. I think it'd make it a safer place, being able to clean those streets. During the summer with the drinking downtown, it gets kind of messy. I end up with plastic cups and vomit in the street in front of my store during that. It'd be nice to have that cleaned up. But if the cars are parked there all night, the city can't get through and clean the things. So I'd just really like to request we have a dedicated parking code enforcement officer downtown at least once a day to actually enforce those codes that we have on the books. That's everything I had to say tonight, and I appreciate your guys' time.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, we sure appreciate you taking time to be here.
Absolutely.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak to the council on an item not on the agenda, please come forward. Same story. We'll just need your name. You'll have 3 minutes. Thanks for being here.
My name is Lucille Norwood, and I'm just here to say thank you for all that you do. I know there's lots of big issues that I have no idea that you do. I'm just beginning to learn of some of the things that you do. And I've always been appreciative of the little things like having the green path, the green walkway plowed, and Sunday morning you can go out there early and it's all plowed and all the parks are really nice and stuff. So that's all I wanted to say was thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you. We sure appreciate that. Any other members of the public wishing to speak to the council on non-agenda items, please go ahead and come forward. Okay. We will close this public comment period. Move on. Councilor Pierce is going to get us through setting the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the agenda be set as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Shumway. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, the agenda has been set. Thank you, Councilor Pierce. City Manager, I'm going to move to you for any, forgive me, we're going to go to public hearings next. So, City Clerk, to you.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing of the Laramie City Council will be held Tuesday, February 20th at 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Council Chambers, via Zoom meeting for the following purpose. Original ordinance number 2080, setting compensation rates for the elected officials of the city of Laramie, Wyoming. Original ordinance number 2081, allowing certain offenders charged in municipal court to qualify for an adult diversion program 2. Original ordinance number 2082, amending chapter 13.48.010 of the Laramie Municipal Code to regulate wastewater rates in the city of Laramie. Original ordinance number 2083, amending chapter 13.44.010 of the Laramie Municipal Code to regulate water rates in the city of Laramie. All information relative to this matter is available for review at the City of Laramie City Clerk's office at 406 Ivinson Avenue, Laramie, Wyoming. Anyone wishing to be heard should be present or may be represented by his or her agent at the meeting or via Zoom. Written comments may be mailed to City Council, care of City of Laramie City Clerk, P.O. Box C, Laramie, Wyoming 82073. For questions or information, contact the City Clerk's office at the address above, by telephone at 307-721-5220, or by email at clerk@cityoflaramie.org. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Thank you, City Clerk. I'm going to open these just in order as they appear on the agenda. We're going to start with the public hearing for Original Ordinance 2080. This would be the establishment of a rate of pay for the governing body. Is there any member of the public wishing to speak to this public hearing? And I will remind you, you will also have a chance to speak to the item when it comes before the council. Anyone on Zoom wishing to speak to this public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing, move on to the next, which is Original Ordinance 2081. This one would be the diversion program. Any member of the public wishing to speak during the public hearing for the diversion program? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing. We'll move on to the next, which is Original Ordinance 2082. This would be the wastewater rates. Any member of the public is welcome to come forward in the room. Raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Again, you'll have a second chance when the item comes before the council in just a few minutes. Seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing. Move on finally to Original Ordinance 2083. And this would be the, again, the rates for the, for water this time, not wastewater, forgive me. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the water rates? Okay. Council, I'm going to close that public hearing as well. We're going to move on to announcements. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I had asked the Assistant City Manager to talk to you about the redesignation the city recently received. Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, City Manager. Welcome, Assistant City Manager.
Thanks, Mayor. Just recently, the City of Laramie was awarded Sensory Inclusive, which is done by Culture City USA. It's a program where staff and facilities are set up for individuals with invisible disabilities who enter our facilities to feel welcome and have their needs met. A majority of the staff has completed the training, which allowed us to be considered sensory inclusive, and we've been doing this for about 4 years now, and we're super excited about the signs, the tools that we have, and the ability to make those individuals feel included in our environments. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Assistant City Manager. I appreciate the staff for taking the extra effort to ensure we welcome you to everybody. Thank you. Any questions, council members, before okay, thanks. Assistant City Manager, I see we have a staff recognition.
I do. Thank you, Council. I wanted to take a few minutes of your time to recognize our Employee of the Month, or our rock star from January, and unfortunately, she's not able to join us, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Judy Lake. Judy is the Administrative Secretary in the Green Hill Cemetery. She's been with us now since, I think, 2020, so going on a little over 3 years. And she was nominated for this recognition this month by her supervisor, the cemetery crew supervisor, Lonnie Wilson, who acknowledged that the amount of work that Judy does is really quite phenomenal, if I can talk tonight, and also pointed out that she has an exceptionally kind and understanding demeanor and is of great comfort to those who need the services that she provides at Green Hill Cemetery, and often in very trying and difficult times in their lives. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what she's been working on this year, partly because Green Hill Cemetery is such an interesting and unique part of city operations, and Judy is pushing all the paper out there. She works with customers, obviously, to find burial spots for their loved ones or for themselves, which involves a lot of processing of paperwork, funeral schedules, and also maintaining cemetery records. But this year, Judy's been working to update our cemetery records. And the cemetery, as you know, is a very important historical part of our community that the city just happens to have responsibility for. We have permits, says Judy, going back as far as 1891, and she's been working to digitize those records, so it's an efficiency effort at the cemetery, as well as to make them as accurate as possible. And they've been engaging with volunteers out at the cemetery as well to scan the documents and then to do research to seek out past obituaries to affix to those cemetery records. And that's a really kind of, I think, cool customer service aspect of what they're doing, because people may not realize, but in that position at the cemetery, they work with not just Laramie residents, but literally people from all around the country and from outside of the U.S., whether they're going to be utilizing the facility or planning for future utilization of the cemetery, or they're trying to find historical records for their ancestors and relatives. So pretty cool stuff going on out there right now. Judy's originally from Wyoming. She's traveled all over the country. She's lived in many areas of Wyoming. She travels often to see her son and her daughter, one in Colorado and one in Wyoming, and likes to take road trips in her free time with her dog. And there's a really cute picture of Barkley along with Judy in our newsletter this month. So we thank her for the great work that she's doing and for her dedication and for really helping people when they need it most. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager, and please pass along our thanks to Judy. That was really great. Council members, any disclosures this evening? Okay. I'm going to move to Councilor Pierce for approval of the consent agenda.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that the consent agenda be approved and that each specific action on the consent agenda be approved as indicated.
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Gabriel. City Clerk, please call the roll on approval of the consent agenda.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville. Somerville.
Yes, I apologize. Couldn't get it off mute.
Cumbie.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Consent agenda has been approved. Surprise, Councilor Richardson, we're headed to you for the next item.
Sounds good, thank you. I move that the Laramie City Council approve Amendment Number 1 to the fee-for-service agreement for public art services related to the Snowy Range Road Bridge Project between the City of Laramie and the Laramie Public Art Coalition in an amount not to exceed $130,000 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, second by Pierce. Hi, Jody, how are you?
Good evening,
Director
Mayor.
Garen.
I'm well,
Sorry.
thanks. Todd and I were discussing whether or not it was me or him, so if I need his help, he'll jump in. Anyway, this amendment, you may or may not remember when we passed this the first time. This was money that was set aside originally through the construction of the Snowy Range Bridge for enhancements, and a portion of that was allocated for public art. We have 2 pedestals, one on the east side of the bridge, one on the west side, and those are dedicated to whatever type of artwork we decide to put on them, but most recently, we've been working on what we call a temporary art program. It's kind of a rotating opportunity for different types of artwork to be there. And it was a really great opportunity when they were able to install 2 pieces of artwork. First of all, it was one of the first big splashes of like community public art that we did. And it was great because it was only there for 3 years, meaning we had an opportunity to give it a try, see what we'd like to do differently another time in terms of including the community or the neighborhood. And we are at the conclusion of our first round of artwork. So sometime later this spring, we'll be decommissioning that artwork. The artist will come and take it away. It'll go someplace else. And we now have money to allocate for, we believe, another 3 rounds. We originally thought that it would only be 3 rounds in total. This will make it 4. So the amount has been reduced somewhat for each phase. Each phase will be up roughly 3 years, and then we'll have another opportunity. So this is to complete the remaining phases. Now that we've had an opportunity to do this, we thought maybe we could go ahead and amend it once, have it go for about the next 10 years, and there we go. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you. Council members, any questions about this? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to the public on this item. If there's any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room.
Mayor, one additional thing.
Oh, please. Yeah.
Any members of the public who would like to participate, I would encourage them to reach out to our executive director for the Laramie Public Art Coalition to see how they might be able to be involved. We intend to do some public outreach as well. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's important. The city does follow the public art plan and works with the Public Art Coalition to select these artworks. So folks that live near it, council members on occasion, other community members are very welcome, in fact encouraged to participate in these processes. And we've stopped hearing about what is there now, so it is probably time to change them. It's something else that we can hear about.
That is the goal.
Yes. All right, any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go back to that. If you're on Zoom, raise your hand. If you're in the room, just go ahead and come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments. Okay, City Clerk? Oh, yeah, Councilor Pierce, please.
Yeah, just thanks for all the good work. It was interesting, the first time we did this, and certainly looking forward to what could potentially be coming next. So that's exciting.
Councilor Doherty, please.
I think we've also learned about maybe how the art should match the lighting. I think that'll be something that the next committee will take into consideration. But it's all good.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments, council members? Okay. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We'll move on to item 12. Councilor Shumway.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the Laramie City Council approve Resolution 2024-20, amending appropriations for the fiscal year 2024 biennial budget for the City of Laramie, Wyoming, award the contract for the reconstruction services to High Country Pools in an amount of $230,850, authorizing a contingency of $6,000, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Shumway, second by Newman. And Shakaren, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Mostly I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, but also to give the community and yourselves an update on the spa. We had, in the fall, when we were doing the replastering of the leisure pool, discovered that we had a significant leak in the spa, and at the same time, we had a very large water bill, which meant we had a lot of leakage and we weren't sure where it was all going. So we turned off the hot tub at the time and started exploring. What we thought was initially some cracks in the shell were repaired, and before we completed tiling and, put it all back together. We filled it with water just out of an abundance of caution, and based on the amount of leakage it was still continuing to see, it was not fixed, and so we brought in a second leak detection company to have them determine where the leakage was. They identified it. We fixed that leak. There were more leaks. So we've gotten to the point where we realize that there is significant leakage in the plumbing, and we can't identify the exact locations. It's probably many locations. And so we're moving forward with a full reconstruction of the hot tub. So what that means is we'll bring in a demolition contractor. They will take out the entire concrete shell and all the plumbing, and we will tie back on to where it comes into the area through the wall. And I'm going to estimate, if everything goes smoothly, fingers crossed, probably about a 2-month from the start of construction, and I think we can probably start about the beginning of March. So hopefully we'll be in about a 2-month window to get it back up and running. So this is the amendment for the budget. This is the contract, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Council members, any questions? Okay, we'll go to the public on this item. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room or raise your hand if you are on the Zoom call. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments. Councilor Doherty, please.
I know members of our disability community that really get a lot of therapeutic use from that spa. So I'm glad that it'll be repaired. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments, council members? Okay. Like many of you, I've heard about the spa being closed. It is obviously a quite popular amenity at the rec center. So I, like you all, look forward to it being back online and better than ever, holding water and all. So, City Clerk, with that, I will ask you to call the roll, please.
Shumway.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Somerville.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. I appreciate that. Item 13, we're going to go to you, Councilor Shumway.
You just did that one.
No, we did 12. You're on, yeah, sorry.
All right, 13. Sure.
Yeah, take your time. There's no rush.
Okay, I move to approve original ordinance 2080, amending Title II of the Laramie Municipal Code, third and final reading to establish the rate of pay for the governing body beginning on January 1st, 2025, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Second.
Motion by Shumway, second by Gabriel. City Manager.
Thank you, Council. As noted, this item is on third and final reading. You'll recall on second reading, you did pass an amendment to this ordinance that would make the ordinance become effective a little more than 11 months from now on January 1st of 2025. In general, what this ordinance does is it adjusts the pay of our council members and in the same sequence as we recently adjusted pay for all city staff members based on a market survey to establish what competitive and market-based compensation would look like. What we found, and I do have with me tonight Human Resources Department Head Patty Russell. Patty conducted a survey of other similarly situated and sized municipal governments in Wyoming, specifically looking at those that have our same form of government, a manager-council form of government. And what we found as part of reviewing your salary within reviewing all salaries is that your pay is well below what other cities are paying. The last time the City Council adjusted salary for council members was in 2008, so this has been some years ago. What we recommended presented to you to bring you contemporary to other communities is that you would receive $150 per counselor per meeting, with the mayor receiving twice that at $300 for presiding over the meeting. As has been our practice in the past, travel expenses would be paid for council members to official meetings of the Wyoming Association of Municipality, the National League of Cities and such, and then also when you serve on subcommittees or other committees or governing boards for those organizations. I'm also recommending that city council members be reimbursed for certain expenses. You are already reimbursed for travel. You would, under this ordinance, also be reimbursed for vehicle or mileage when you travel to those meetings in your personal vehicle, as are all other city employees. You would be eligible for the mobile data communication reimbursement, which is effectively the use of your personal cell phone for city business, with the exception of electioneering, campaigning, or political activity. And you would be reimbursed for continuing education, as are all staff, when the education or the courses that you're taking apply to the work you do with municipal government. And then lastly, you would also become eligible under this ordinance, if it passes, for elective programs that the city offers to all other city employees. An elective program is one where the individual can subscribe, but they pay the full cost of what they're subscribing to. There is no contribution from the city. And an example of those elective programs would be our medical ambulance optional coverage, the pet insurance optional coverage, accident critical care optional coverage. If you have any questions, council, I'm happy to answer those. And as I mentioned, Human Resource Director Patty Russell is here as well.
Thank you, City Manager. Council members, do you have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to the public on this item. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, please go ahead and come forward. If you're in the room, raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Council members, last chance for comments on this item. Okay, before we go to the vote, I just wanted to say it's been brought up by council members a few times that this is awkward to vote on your own pay raise, and while I certainly agree, this has never happened before in my, sort of in my life, or any of ours, to probably a large extent. But I think that the amendment on second reading to make this actually not our pay, but the future council's pay, was wise. It sort of helps us avoid some of that. We all have to work hard if we want to be back here making $30 more a meeting. And I think, just a quick calculation on inflation, because I do think that's a piece of this conversation. If you took the $120 in 2028 and calculated the inflation, I think to move it to maybe the beginning of 2024 is about $175. If you move it to before the pandemic, which I think is when we all saw the largest swing in inflation, it puts it at $150. So this doesn't even get us quite to what would be a base level, just matching what we thought was fair in 2008. But obviously this is the maximum allowed under statute, so it doesn't matter what I think of that. So I just wanted to leave the council with that. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Pierce.
No.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville. Absent. Newman.
No.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 6 yeses, 2 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved. We'll move on to item 14.
Mayor, before you do,
Please.
I just thought of something, if I could.
Sure.
On this. It sounds like a lot of money for a meeting, but I hope everybody takes into consideration all of the work sessions and other duties of council, plus what the mayor does. And so it seems like pretty good compensation for a regular meeting, but there's lots more involved in council than just this. I just wanted
Thank
to
you,
point that
Counselor.
out. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Item 14, Vice Mayor Cumby, forgive me.
I move to approve on second reading original ordinance number 2081, adding section 9.13 to Laramie Municipal Code, providing certain persons charged in municipal court to qualify for a diversion program.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Cumby, second by Councilor Newman. Ms. Austin-Belaski, it is to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As you all remember, we discussed this last week. There was a proposed amendment in the cover sheet to the ordinance, and I don't know if that was brought to council's attention.
Mayor, I believe it's on your cover sheet.
It is, yeah. It is, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
And so nothing's changed other than the amendment. It was brought to my attention there may be some concern about whether if a person were to participate in this diversion program, if it might impact their ability to use their statutory first offender under Wyoming Statute 713-301. So the proposed amendment is essentially to add a subsection just to clarify that these are two distinct kind of programs. I will also note that Heather Carter, the program director for the Albany County Court Supervised Treatment Program, as well as Shanda Doherty, who's the diversion coordinator, are also in council chambers. If you should have any questions, I'm happy to answer, and if I can't, I'm quite sure they can.
Thank you. Council members, any questions at the jump here? Councilor Doherty, please.
I'd like to check if you think that amendment is appropriate.
Sure.
And if so,
Please.
I'd like to make the amendment. Oh, the amendment is?
There's an amendment, Council, if we would like to adopt a recommended amendment by staff to clarify that language that Ms. Austin-Belaski spoke about, we would need to move that amendment, which you'll see in the cover sheet. So Councilor Doherty, if you'd like to move that amendment.
I move to amend to add subsection L to read, "This diversion program is intended to be a distinct program that does not impact an individual's ability to seek and/or obtain first-time offender probation under the first-time offender law as set forth in Wyoming statute." What's the ANN? How do I say that? Wyoming statute ANN. Okay, 7-13-301, or any similar section of the probationary statutes of any other jurisdiction.
Second.
Second.
Motion by O'Doherty, seconded by Pierce. Council members, we just got a quick explainer of this amendment, but does anyone have questions about this? I'm hoping you could walk me through sort of like the quick, maybe a quick version of sort of, if we didn't adopt this, it would be unclear. It wouldn't necessarily prevent somebody from seeking their first-time offenders, but it would be unclear. But if they were not able to, what would that look like in practice, in court? What would that look like?
So, Honorable Mayor, it's my at least legal opinion that it wouldn't prevent somebody from being able to seek first-time offender under our law, because there are other programs, right? We have a defensive driving dismissal program. There's a probationary for possession of a controlled substance. So there's certainly different programs. The concern was just whether or not there might be a jurisdiction that might interpret it that way, and so I think this just makes it very clear that the intent is that this be a distinct program. And so that if somebody, say, got a DUI and it was a first-time DUI and wanted first-time offender, but they had done this program for, say, an underage consumption of alcohol citation, it wouldn't prohibit them in that instance if somebody were to interpret it in a way that I don't, as having been similar to a first-time offender program.
Thank you. Council members, any other questions about the amendment itself? Okay, we're going to go to the public on the amendment specifically. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the amendment can come forward in the room. Raise your hand if you are on Zoom and would like to speak to the amendment. Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment on this. Back to the council for any comments before the vote. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville. Absent. Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 noes, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. The amendment has been adopted. We're back on the main motion, council members. Any other discussion on the main motion? Councilor Richardson, please.
I have 2 items. One, Councilor Somerville asked that I ask about, and so if are we to questions, is that okay, Mayor?
Yep, that's great.
Great. She was curious as to why people who have received a DUI are excluded. So if we could talk about that a little bit, that would be great. I don't think we've talked about that previously.
Come up
Thank
just
you.
to help. But
Thank you, Councilor.
Honorable Mayor, there is a provision of the state statute on DUI that says that a DUI cannot be dismissed or reduced unless a prosecutor can give the court supporting facts in court to say that there are insufficient facts to prove that charge. And so it cannot be dismissed as part and parcel of a plea agreement such as diversion. And so it's actually a prohibition in state law that's then incorporated into Laramie Municipal Code.
Thank you. I'll pass that along as well.
Thank you, Councilor. And you said you had a second point?
Yeah, I also have a proposed amendment if we are to that place yet.
Sure.
Okay, so my proposal would be on page 2, 8, where it currently says the defendant must be a current resident of Albany County. And we talked about this a little bit last week. I would like to propose an amendment that says the defendant must be a current resident of Albany County and continue that residency through the completion. Oh, wait, sorry. Let me adjust that. I'm reading the wrong part. The defendant must be a current resident of Albany County and continue that residency through the completion of the diversion program unless otherwise authorized by the supervisor of the ACCSTP. So adding that unless otherwise authorized, which would, I hope, allow them to continue the program even if they move and it is a lower offense.
I'd second that.
Okay, motion by Richardson, seconded by O'Doherty. Council members, any questions about the amendment itself?
Mayor, could I just get a clarification?
Please.
Unless authorized by?
I believe.
By the supervisor of the ACSTP, and I don't actually know if that's who would be the person to authorize that. Maybe
Let's get some clarification there if that makes
folks can guide on that.
Councilor Richardson, we'll get some clarification on that and see where we end up. Does that make sense? Is a logical person to decide as a first question?
Yes. So Heather Carter, Director of the Court Supervised Treatment Program. I don't see any reason that amendment would be inappropriate, and it would be as authorized by the director of ACCSTP. In this case, I would say that we would create policy for the diversion coordinator or later on the case manager, just to talk with me about the case and why that would be appropriate, so that we have all of our bases covered. So absolutely, I don't have any concern with that.
Thank you. Okay, council members, any questions about the amendment? Okay. We'll go to the public on this amendment. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this can come forward in the room, raise their hand on Zoom. Seeing none, back to the council for any comments before the vote. Great. City Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Newman.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville. Absent. Gabriel.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce. Oh, sorry. Richardson. I was reading my lines wrong.
Yes.
The power.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That amendment has been approved. We're back to the main motion. Councilors, any other discussion on the main motion? I have a question now that we've adopted 3 amendments to this. I think there is an interest in this functioning exactly between the city and the county. Is there I don't know where the county is at in their process of adopting this program. Maybe Ms. Carter knows, but I'd be curious to know if they're interested in these these changes as well, or if they're necessary in any way. I think obviously our hope is that everybody has the same encounter with the justice system regardless of sort of where they end up.
Absolutely. And we've had, even as of last Friday, another meeting between Ms. Austin Belaski and the county attorney's office. We are drafting as similar as we can between the courts, taking in Judge Sanford's desires and how things go versus Judge Wynn. The process is, hopefully we will have everything finalized here in the next couple weeks to be able to present, but they're pretty close. These amendments we've made really don't apply on the county side as they're operating in the pocket deferral versus state statute. Our hope is that with this being a pilot program, that we will be able to help legislature craft a statute moving forward, and that when Wyoming adopts hopefully a diversion program formally through the court system, we'll kind of be on the front end of that.
Thank you for that. Councilor Pierce, please.
Yeah, thank you. In 2 weeks, we will have third reading of this, assuming that it passes this evening. Because I know I am most interested in getting the city and the county on the same page, right? Would it be your recommendation if we postponed this like a month so that you have the time to work with our judge and the county judge, or are we going to be good to go knowing that we're going to get as close as we possibly can?
I think at this point we would be good to go, that we are going to be as close as we can. There are some, in the conversation on Friday, county attorney's office is willing to look at adopting their process similar to what the city is doing, as far as having the participant appear for the initial appearance, as we had talked about, and then enter in the guilty plea on the record. At this point right now, the only difference is if they appear in person or if it's in writing for the guilty plea. That is right now with Judge Sanford, but it's something that the county attorney's office is willing to do to mirror the process, as well as those cases that would be deferral on the after completion of the program. So I had talked to them after last meeting about some of the concerns on the differences, and they're willing to mirror what we're looking at for the city for the ordinance. It's just going to be a matter of communication. And then they asked about the possibility if there are cases that they dismiss up front, and that will be a continued conversation that we'll have with the court here and the prosecutor's office. There is not anything that is required in the grant as far as that process, and so I think with the county attorney's office mirroring what we're trying to do in the city, that's probably as close as we're going to get.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sorry,
you
that
much.
was long.
No, that was good to know, and I appreciate that, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor Pierce, and thank you, Director Carter.
Absolutely.
Council members, any other questions here? Councilor Richardson. Oh, sorry, Councilor Gabriel and then Councilor Richardson. I forgot, Councilor.
So we have 2 weeks before we do this again for third reading. Do you anticipate maybe through your discussions with the county and the judges that there might be a change or two?
I don't believe there will be a change or two, and what I will do is to have, if the council would like it, we'll have the draft process for county and for city that I'll be able to provide for the final reading, just for consideration, so that it will be identified what that process will be.
But just know, too, that we do have the possibility that through discussion, we could maybe have an amendment or two.
I appreciate
Something
it.
comes up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gabriel. Yeah, certainly a two-way street. Councilor Richardson?
I'm good, thank you.
Great. Okay. City Clerk, have I gone to the public on this? I sort of lost the thread there in the middle.
Not on the main motion yet.
Great. Would have been my guess, but I wasn't sure. All right, we're going to go to the public on the main motion here. If any member of the public wishes to speak to this item, go ahead and raise your hand if you're on Zoom, or come forward in the room. Ms. Devine has her hand up. City Clerk, please let her in the room. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Devine. We'll just, we have your name written down here, so you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. First of all, I appreciate the attempt to try to get this as uniform as possible with the county. I think that's really important. The other question that I have is the requirement for the 45 days that someone needs to apply or to enroll in the program. And I think I brought this up last time. I'm wondering, will the judge have the discretion to provide an extension if someone believes that there might be some Fourth Amendment violation and wants to exercise their right to have a hearing on that? That's going to go past the 45 days. So that's just something I'm wondering if the court can address, or sorry, not court, city council or the prosecutor, if the judge is going to have some discretion if there needs to be an extension of time. And that's all I have. I do appreciate all the hard work that y'all are doing on this.
Thank you, Ms. Devine. Appreciate you taking time to be here. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to the council on this item? Raise your hand on Zoom, come forward in the room. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments, questions before we go to the vote. Councilor Gabriel, please.
Could we have somebody address Ms. Devine's concern?
Thank you, Councilor Gabriel. Ms. Austin-Blasky, please.
I would be certainly interested in that.
Yes, so Mayor and Council, the way that the ordinance is currently written, it is a set 45 days. The goal, as I understand, of the diversion program is for somebody who wants to appear before the court, take responsibility, acknowledge that they did whatever the charges are and that there were behaviors that led to those charges, and address the underlying behavior. And that their reward is it's dismissed, and the reward for the community is we've addressed the underlying behavior that led to the incident in the first place. So the 45 days is a set fast rule. Typically, a defendant from the date a citation is issued will have to appear anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. An officer will typically write that appearance date. Court will give them about a 7-day leeway, and so that puts it at about 28 days. So I figured by the time they are required to appear in court, they'll have a little over 2 weeks to look into the program, meet with Ms. Doherty, determine if it's appropriate and if this is what they want to do. If they want to file motions, they always have that option, but not both. They won't have both options available to them.
Thank you. Ms. Austin-Blasky, and this might be a question for you, Ms. Carter, as well, but how would we handle it in a case where, because we know there's a capacity issue, you could imagine that somebody may be interested in a diversion approach. I'm curious how that process happens so that they haven't pleaded guilty thinking that they're going to end up in a diversion program, encounter diversion, and then there's no space, and then they have already pleaded guilty and found themselves in a bit of a pickle.
absolutely a valid question. So for capacity issues, what our hope is that if there is the initial appearance where they're being informed of their rights, and then at some point, either between citation or within the 2 weeks after that initial appearance, sorry, your brain is not tracking, that they make contact with us, and we have set within our internal policies that we would, upon contact or an application received, we would complete the interview within 3 business days, and to keep the process moving. At that point in time, we're not establishing treatment needs for level, just what their risks are for reoffense and what their needs are, criminogenic needs. And then if they are looking at the program, at that point, we would communicate with the county attorney's office or the city prosecutor's office, let them know we've interviewed, that the process is in the works. As far as capacity issues, I would say that at that point, it would take a big capacity. I don't have that number in my head, but I would say that if we are waiting on, it's a great question, Mayor. Probably have to establish a wait list and not have that person enter that plea until we were able to have a position secured, because we do not want to create a situation where they're entering a plea and having that off the table for them. Biggest thing would be protecting their rights in that. So there would be a conditional acceptance for the program, appropriate for the program, willing to start. This is what we're looking at for time frame, so that we would be able to submit the paperwork identifying them, but not having them enter that plea until we had a date for them to start. That would be my best anticipation at this point.
Thank you for that. And that was really sort of my, when I had thought about the 45-day conversation, because it had been brought up previously, when that was my fear. Was that by having a firm rule about that you could end up getting somebody sort of trapped where they just sort of, their time expires by virtue of sort of like the bureaucracy of it. And I don't mean to say that in, I know sometimes that word gets thrown around in sort of an unkind way. I don't mean it in that way at all. But in just the fact that this is a system that has to operate with its own rules, I would hate for folks to get stuck in that. So,
See, that would be a conversation, and maybe identifying that on that amendment, that if we have responded within that time frame. I want to make a bunch of amendments.
Yeah, sure.
If it's something
I can't make them either, so you're not in the same boat.
But that communication with the prosecutor's office, that there was a tentative acceptance, and that we have the date set for when the program was available.
Okay, and to me, that feels like the argument for the judge having some discretion in that 45-day window is not, to me, so much about the plea part of that conversation. To me, it feels more about the sort of the practicality of the timeline. I imagine that most people who do this sort of work are probably just going to like work themselves to death. I imagine that you're not going to say no to a lot of people. You're just going to not sleep, which is a shame. But I know people like you. This council's full of them. And I think, I just don't want to, I don't want you to see somebody's timeline coming up and think like, if I don't accept it, I'm just going to follow them forever. That doesn't seem fair to me. So I can't do anything with that, but I've been thinking about it. So, but thank you for your answer. Yeah, Councilor Pierce.
I have a comment to that, not a question. But I feel like it's a good point that, and it's worth the discussion, but I also feel these folks are professionals, and at some point, they have to have professional judgment, right? They have to be allowed to have some flexibility. I think as a council, we need to kind of let them be to some extent, instead of, amendment after amendment and trying to figure out all potential eventualities that we will never figure out, right? So we're just really hopeful and grateful At least I am, so thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilor Pearson. I think one of my interests, I guess my not one of my interest in this conversation is ensuring that that's in there. Because as it's written now, 45 days. We have said 45 days. If you're past 45, your professional discretion is no longer an option. And I guess I'm just trying to build that in. I do see value in having to plead and having to accept what you've done if you want to move through this process. And so I'm not interested in it for that reason. I think only because I think that we should have some flexibility for none of us to make that decision, certainly. But, you know, maybe our municipal judge or prosecutor, county attorney, whoever makes the most sense, because I'm not an attorney and I don't understand that world. But I'm going to quit talking about it unless somebody's interested in that. So, all right. Councilor Richardson?
I would like to explore that more for that reason. I had not thought about that until you brought it up, and I'm, you know, maybe it doesn't make sense to have the amendment tonight just because we don't know how that's going to roll out. But if I wouldn't be opposed to it tonight either, to just kind of put something in there that says there's some flexibility to extend that if capacity issues hinder the process, something along those lines. But the other option, I guess, would be to potentially have them work through the process. And as they see the numbers increase, like the number of people enrolling in this, and they start to think like, we might be getting close to capacity here, they bring it to us. My only fear with that is the amount of time. So we'd have to have all these readings again to make that amendment. And so I don't want to hinder the process if things are working really well because we have this 40-day strict something. So maybe to Councilor Pierce's point, we want there to be flexibility for these professionals to do their job, but we also want there to be some flexibility to do their job, to allow more people into the program. So I would be open to some sort of amendment, and maybe somebody has something better that I'm not thinking of.
Councilor Pierce, please.
You have another question. Remind me, I probably have forgotten. Are we going to be getting an update of this process, like in 9 months or 6 months or a year, of like, how's everything going? Or was I dreaming am I making this up, or, isn't it scheduled?
We had asked for an update, I believe 6 months.
6 months.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
What was the question?
Councilor Pierce had asked if we have a schedule for an update on the progress of the diversion program already scheduled.
Nothing scheduled yet, okay. But I would anticipate quarterly probably to start, and then at 6-month intervals just to give updates.
Perfect.
Yes. And that's what I had written also into our grant application, just
Great.
Full disclosure.
We'll see you soon then.
Yes. And bad penny, you can't get rid of me. In talking with Ms. Austin Belaski, I kind of like the idea of our program having some discretion on capacity and then flexibility for that. And so then if that 45 days is waived, would be at the discretion of the program for capacity issues. I don't know if that would solve the concerns, but I do think that then we would be able to articulate why that 45 days wasn't met. That would help me monitor it for my data. For people coming into the program, and then we would have it tied to a specific reason why. I think that might be a happy meeting of the minds.
Okay.
Honorable Mayor, just to address the 45 days, it doesn't require that there be a spot for this individual to actually enter the diversion program by that 45 days. They appear in court, they plead guilty, they sign the waiver. At that point, they'll already have an agreement with the program, and perhaps that enter date is 15 days down the road or 30 days down the road. But this gives them a month and a half from the date of the offense to determine if this is how they want to proceed and just appear in court and kind of get the court piece out of it, and then can certainly enter the program whatever date they have for entering the program in that written signed agreement,
Thank you.
if that helps.
I appreciate that, for sure. Okay. I appreciate everybody humoring that conversation. Counselor Richardson.
Sorry, one more thing. That is very helpful. Thank you. And then I would just think it would be really helpful, Heather, if along the way, if you start to see that gap in the time that they've, the 45 days that they've signed and they want to do this, if that is starting to grow further and further out, that, we're aware of that, so we can think about, if somebody signs this within 45 days and then they can't get into this program for 4 months, and now they are, this is a college town, right? And now they are back in Baggs, Wyoming, doing their thing. So I just want to make sure that you have some wiggle room, and the folks who are involved have the opportunity to still participate. So I am great with how it stands, but just being informed if some weird situations come up that if we need to think about it as a council.
Thank you, council member. Okay, any other council members have questions here? Okay, that was a lengthy council comment period. Sorry that's my fault. So, City Clerk, I'm going to ask you to call the roll on this item, please.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville. Absent. Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item is passed second reading. Ms. Doherty, Ms. Carter, thank you for being here. Ms. Osmaleski, thank you as well. All right, we'll move on to item 15. Councilor Gabriel.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve on second reading Original Ordinance Number 2082, amending Chapter 13.48.0110 of the Laramie Municipal Code to regulate wastewater rates in the city of Laramie.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Gabriel, second by Pierce, and I'm just going to say you just misspoke, and it is 010, not 0110. Director Webb, is that okay, City Clerk? Can we just call that good?
Yeah, that works, Mayor. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, Director Webb.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, I'm sure you recall about a month ago on January 23rd, we had a work session with our rate consultant. And then 2 weeks ago on February 6th, we had first reading. Nothing has changed the whole way so far. The recommendation from the consultant and staff is a 5% increase in the wastewater rates to go into effect on April 1st. The result of that for an average residential wastewater bill is $1.64 a month. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Council members, any questions on this item? Director Webb, I was curious, I had read somewhere that sort of infrastructure-related things, pipe, that sort of stuff, at times has exceeded 60 to 100% inflation since 2020. Are you seeing that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
It's disheartening.
Yes.
Thank you, Director Webb. Council members, any questions before we go to the public? Okay. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, come forward if you're in the room. Raise your hands if you are on Zoom. Seeing none, we will close the public comment period. Back to the council for any comments before the vote. Okay. Seeing no comments, City Clerk, I will have you call the roll, please.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Somerville. Absent. Shumway.
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you, City Clerk. That item has been approved on second reading. We'll move on to item 16. Councilor Richardson, this one is headed to you. I didn't give you a heads up about this one.
Thank you. Oh, no, I see my name, and I just, sorry, need to get my screen up here. Sorry about that. talk amongst yourselves for a second here. All right. I move to approve second reading of original ordinance number 2083, amending chapter 13.44.010 of the Laramie Municipal Code. Wait, am I reading the wrong one? To regulate water rates in the city of Laramie.
Second.
Motion by Richardson, seconded by Pierce. Director Webb.
Mayor, council, same spiel as the last item. I guess the only difference is the proposed rate results in $2.60 monthly increase on an average residential bill. Any questions? I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Director Webb. Council members, any questions? Okay, we'll turn this over to the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this item, go ahead and come forward in the room. Raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Seeing no comment, I'm going to close public comment. Back to the council for any comments before the vote. Okay, seeing none, City Clerk, I will have you call the roll, please.
Richardson.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
O'Doherty.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Shumway.
Yes.
Somerville. Absent. Cumby.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
That's 8 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent, Your Honor.
I appreciate that, City Clerk. That item has passed second reading. Move on to item 17. This is public comment on non-agenda items. So any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any item that was not on our agenda, come forward if you are in the room or raise your hand if you are on Zoom. Seeing none, I will close public comments. Council members, any future work session topics you all would like to discuss? I always appreciate it when it's quiet at this point. I think we all do. All right. Thanks, council members. Item 19, Councilor Pierce.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Pierce, second by Gabriel. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. All right. Thank you, council members. We are adjourned.
Thank you.